What if looking into someone's eyes could unlock memories that medical science said were lost forever? What if a chance encounter on television could bridge a gap that amnesia had created, reconnecting two people across decades in trauma? Ellen DeGeneres was about to discover that sometimes the most powerful medicine isn't found in hospitals. It's found in the unexpected magic of human connection and the resilient power of love to survive even when memory fails. The studio lights warmed the stage as cameras captured what seemed like another inspiring recovery story. Ellen was composed, the audience was attentive, and her guest appeared ready to share what everyone expected would be a tale of overcoming medical challenges. The doctors said I might never remember who I was before the accident, her guest would soon say, her voice uncertain but hopeful. But something about being here, something about you feels familiar. And in that moment, Ellen would realize that some connections run deeper than conscious memory, and that the heart sometimes remembers what the mind has forgotten. Because sometimes the most extraordinary reunions happen when we least expect them, proving that love leaves marks on the soul that no trauma can completely erase. Ellen DeGeneres had interviewed countless guests over her decades-long career, from celebrities sharing comeback stories to everyday heroes overcoming medical challenges. But nothing could have prepared her for the afternoon when what seemed like a routine conversation about brain injury recovery would evolve into one of the most emotionally stunning and personally meaningful encounters of her hosting experience. What started as an inspiring medical story became an unexpected journey into the mysterious power of memory connection and the ways love transcends even the most devastating trauma. It was a gentle Wednesday afternoon at the Ellen Studios, and the atmosphere was hopeful as they prepared for what was scheduled to be an uplifting episode about medical recovery and the resilience of the human spirit. Ellen, wearing a soft coral blazer over white jeans, was looking forward to interviewing Sarah Mitchell, a 34-year-old woman whose recovery from severe amnesia following a car accident had been featured in several medical journals and recovery advocacy publications. Sarah's story, as initially presented to the production team, was exactly the kind of inspiring narrative that Ellen loved to feature, someone who had faced seemingly insurmountable medical challenges and was slowly rebuilding her life through determination and the support of loving caregivers. According to her medical team, Sarah had suffered severe traumatic brain injury in a car accident 18 months earlier, resulting in complete retrograde amnesia that had erased virtually all memories of her life before the age of 32. Our next guest survived a devastating car accident that took away not just her physical abilities, but her entire memory of who she was. Ellen announced to the sympathetic studio audience, she's had to relearn everything: how to walk, how to talk, and most challenging of all, how to rebuild an identity without any memories of her past. Her journey shows us the incredible resilience of the human spirit. Please welcome Sarah Mitchell. The audience offered warm, encouraging applause as Sarah walked onto the stage with careful but confident steps. She was a woman of medium height with auburn hair cut in a practical short style, wearing a simple blue dress that suggested someone who was still rebuilding her sense of personal style. What struck Ellen most was the quality of alertness in Sarah's eyes, not confusion or vacancy, but an intense focus, as if she were constantly trying to piece together a puzzle. "Sarah, welcome to the show," Ellen said warmly as they embraced gently. Ellen noticed that Sarah held the embrace just a moment longer than usual, as if searching for something familiar. "Thank you for having me, Ellen. This feels important somehow," Sarah replied, her voice carrying a slight hesitation as if she were still learning to trust her own words. "Tell us about your accident and what you remember from that time." Sarah's expression grew serious as she began sharing her medical journey. 18 months ago I was in a severe car accident. I was in a coma for 6 weeks, and when I woke up the doctors told me I had suffered significant brain injury. But the strangest part wasn't the physical challenges, it was discovering that I had no memory of my life before the age of 32. "That must have been terrifying," Ellen said with genuine empathy. "It was like waking up as a stranger to myself," Sarah continued. "I could remember basic skills, how to read, how to speak, but I couldn't remember my childhood, my family, my relationships, my career. According to the people caring for me, I had been living in Portland, working as a graphic designer, but none of it felt familiar. Ellen leaned forward with interest. What's the earliest memory you have? My first clear memory is waking up in the hospital and not recognizing the woman sitting beside my bed, Sarah explained. She was crying and holding my hand, calling me sweetheart. But she was a complete stranger to me. It turned out to be my partner of 3 years, Jessica. As Sarah spoke, Ellen noticed something unusual happening. Sarah's eyes kept drifting to Ellen's face with an expression of concentration, as if she were trying to solve a puzzle. Her speech occasionally paused mid-sentence, not from confusion, but as if she were chasing elusive thoughts. "Sarah, are you okay?" Ellen asked, noticing the intensity of Sarah's focus. "I'm sorry," Sarah said, shaking her head slightly. "It's just being here looking at you, something feels familiar. The doctor said this might happen, that certain faces or places might trigger memory fragments." Ellen felt a strange tingle of recognition but couldn't place why. "What kind of feelings are you having?" Sarah paused, pressing her hand to her forehead as if trying to capture a fleeting thought. "It's like, do you ever have a word on the tip of your tongue but you can't quite reach it? That's what this feels like, but with memory instead of words." "Take your time," Ellen said gently. "There's no pressure here." Sarah closed her eyes for a moment, then opened them and looked directly at Ellen with startling intensity. "Ellen, this is going to sound strange, but I feel like I know you. Not from television, this feels deeper, older somehow." Ellen felt her heartbeat quicken as Sarah's words triggered her own vague sense of familiarity. "Sarah, what's your maiden name? Before you were with Jessica, the medical team found my birth certificate. My maiden name was Sarah Catherine Walsh," Sarah replied, and Ellen felt a jolt of recognition at the name Walsh. "Sarah Walsh," Ellen repeated slowly, feeling something stirring in her own memory. "What city were you born in?" "New Orleans, according to my birth certificate." "But Ellen, I don't remember anything about living there." Ellen felt a chill run down her spine as pieces of a long-forgotten puzzle began to align. "Sarah, what year were you born?" 1989, Sarah replied, and Ellen's eyes widened as she did quick mental math. "Sarah," Ellen said carefully, her voice beginning to tremble, "I think I might know why you feel familiar to me. When you were very young, maybe 4 or 5 years old, did you ever live in California?" Sarah's expression intensified with concentration. "I don't know. Why do you ask?" Ellen took a deep breath, hardly believing what she was beginning to suspect. "Sarah, I think you might be the daughter of someone who was very important to me. A long time ago, I dated a woman named Catherine Walsh. She had a little girl named Sarah." Sarah's hands flew to her mouth, as if Ellen's words had unlocked something profound. "Catherine, that's my middle name, Sarah Catherine. Your mother and I were together for about 2 years when you were very young," Ellen continued, tears beginning to form in her eyes. "You used to call me Ellie because you couldn't pronounce Ellen properly." Sarah's breathing became rapid and shallow as she processed this information. "Ellie," she whispered, and suddenly her eyes widened with recognition. "Oh my God, Ellie." The studio fell completely silent as everyone witnessed the extraordinary moment of memory returning. Sarah's face transformed as if clouds had suddenly cleared from her mind. "You used to make me pancakes on Sunday mornings," Sarah exclaimed, tears streaming down her face. "And you taught me how to dance in the living room while Mom got ready for work." Ellen was openly crying now as memories flooded back. "You had a stuffed elephant named Peanut, and you insisted he needed his own place setting at dinner." "Peanut," Sarah laughed through her tears. "And you used to read me the same book every night, the one about the brave little mouse, Frederick by Leo Lyon," Ellen said with wonder. "You memorized every word, but you still wanted me to read it." Sarah suddenly stood up and moved closer to Ellen, studying her face with amazement. "Your eyes, I remember your eyes. You always looked at me like I was the most important person in the world." Ellen stood as well, and they embraced with the familiarity of people who had once been family. "Sarah, you were so important to me. When your mother and I broke up and she moved away with you, it was one of the hardest things I'd ever experienced." "What happened?" Sarah asked, still holding Ellen's hands. "Why did you and Mom break up?" Ellen's expression grew sad as she recalled those difficult memories. Your mother got an amazing job opportunity in Portland. We tried to make a long-distance relationship work, but it was the early 2000s and I was still struggling with being openly gay in my career. The stress and distance eventually pulled us apart. Did you ever try to find us? I did, Ellen admitted. But your mother wanted a clean break. She thought it would be easier for you to adjust to your new life if you didn't have reminders of what you'd left behind. I respected her decision even though it broke my heart. Sarah processed this information with the wonder of someone rediscovering a lost part of themselves. Ellen, the doctors said my amnesia was caused by the brain injury, but they also said that sometimes people lose memories of traumatic periods. What if losing you and the life we had was so painful that my mind blocked it out? Ellen felt overwhelmed by the implications of Sarah's question. Sarah, I don't know. But what I do know is that seeing you again, seeing the amazing woman you've become, is giving me back a piece of my heart I didn't know was missing. Ellen turned to address the audience and cameras. Folks, what we're witnessing here is something that defies explanation. Sarah came here to talk about recovering from amnesia, but instead we've discovered a connection that goes back over 25 years. She looked back at Sarah with profound emotion. Sarah, what does it feel like to have these memories returning? It's like finding a room in my house that I didn't know existed, Sarah said with wonder. A room filled with love and warmth and feeling safe. Ellen, you were my first experience of what it meant to be unconditionally loved by someone who wasn't obligated to love me. Ellen wiped tears from her eyes. Sarah, you taught me what it meant to love someone enough to let them go when you couldn't give them what they needed. Losing you prepared me to understand love as sacrifice. What happened to my mother? Sarah asked quietly. Ellen's expression grew gentle but sad. I lost touch with Catherine after the move. I tried to reach out a few times over the years, but she never responded. I assumed she wanted to keep the past in the past. Sarah absorbed this information thoughtfully. The people caring for me said I had very few personal belongings after the accident. No family photos, no contact information for relatives. Now I understand why. If Mom wanted to leave the past behind, she wouldn't have kept reminders. Ellen made a decision that felt both hopeful and necessary. Sarah, if you want, I'd like to help you find your mother. She deserves to know what's happened to you, and you deserve to have your full family back. Would you do that? Sarah asked with obvious relief. Of course, Sarah, you were family to me once, and seeing you again reminds me that some bonds don't disappear just because circumstances separate us. 3 months later, Ellen provided an update that brought tears to her eyes. Through a private investigator, they had located Catherine, who was living in Seattle and working as a social worker. The reunion between Sarah and her mother had been emotional and healing for both women. Even more remarkably, Sarah's memory recovery had accelerated dramatically after reconnecting with Ellen. The neurologist treating her believed that the emotional significance of rediscovering such an important relationship had somehow stimulated broader memory recovery. 6 months later, all 3 women appeared together on Ellen's show for a follow-up interview that became one of the most watched episodes in the show's history. Catherine, Ellen said during that reunion episode, how did it feel to learn that Sarah was alive and that her memory was returning? Catherine, now in her 50s but still recognizable as the woman Ellen had once loved, wiped tears from her eyes. Ellen, when I got your call, I thought it was a cruel joke. I'd been mourning Sarah for 18 months, believing she had died in that accident. Getting her back felt like a miracle. And Sarah, Ellen continued, how much of your memory has returned? About 70%, Sarah replied, sitting between Ellen and her mother. But the memories that came back first and strongest were the ones from our time together. It's like love created deeper grooves in my brain. Ellen smiled through her tears. What this experience has taught me is that love really is the most powerful force in the universe. It survived your amnesia, it survived our separation, and it brought us back together when we needed each other most. The episode sparked international discussion about the relationship between memory, trauma, and emotional healing. Medical professionals debated whether strong emotional connections could indeed facilitate memory recovery in ways that traditional treatments couldn't. What Sarah taught us that day, Ellen reflected months later, is that some connections transcend conscious memory. Love lives in places deeper than our minds can reach, and sometimes when we think we've lost someone forever, we're actually just waiting for the right moment to find them again. Because sometimes the most extraordinary medical miracles happen not in hospitals but in television studios, where the healing power of love proves stronger than any trauma. And sometimes the most important memories aren't the ones we can recall, but the ones our hearts carry until the perfect moment brings them back to light.